Welcome you to Southwestern Community College. And for the first of our debates that we've arranged with people running for election this year, the work's been done by members of my social problems class. They've been investigating social issues both locally and in the state, and have come up with questions, approved those questions, and chosen the order we'll ask them, and they've done a great job. My name is Dr. Buck again, and we're glad that you came to hear what the commissioners and the other candidates have to say. The way tonight's going to work is we aren't going to be taking questions from the audience, because the students are the ones who are generating the questions. And we do ask that you please refrain from signs of approval or disapproval as we go through the debate. When the debate's done, we do have light refreshments out in the lobby. You're welcome to stop and get some punch or water or coffee and some cookies. And then I'm sure the candidates would be glad to say hello, or if you'd like to say hello to them. We do have, as you notice, we have a timer, and Dean Barr-Putman is manning the timer. She's the policewoman here tonight. And the way this is going to work, we will ask each candidate to present a 2-minute opening statement. Then we will proceed to the questions. They'll each have 2 minutes to answer each question. And then if they wish to respond or rebut what someone else has said, they have 1 minute to make a rebuttal. And then when we get to the end, we'll give each of them 2 minutes for closing statements. And then we'll conclude the debate. So again, I'm glad you came and joined us, and we'll get underway. Kevin.
Yeah, go ahead. Good afternoon, candidates. My name is Stephen Welch. I'm a student here. I'm a student of high school. I'm sorry. My name is Stephen Welch. I'm a student here.
Kevin, I messed up. My problem. We need to give them opening statements first.
Okay. I will step back and let you make your opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Charles Elders. I'm the current commissioner of Jackson County from District 1. I'm a lifelong resident of Jackson County, and I'm seeking my 3rd term on the board of commissioners. And I feel that throughout these 8 years, I've been fair in every vote, and I've took every issue at heart. My wife is also a resident of Jackson County. She's from the Qualla area. I have 1 son, 2 granddaughters, and 1 great-granddaughter. All have been educated here in the Jackson County schools. My son graduated of Southwestern Community College. My granddaughters both graduates of Western Carolina University. I'm the owner and operator of Elders Super Ed down at Barker's Creek. I've been in business of my own for over 25 years. Prior to that, I operated other businesses, Haywood County and on the Cherokee Indian Reservation. And I feel at this time, with my business experience for almost 30-some years and 8 years serving as your county commissioner, I'm qualified, and I'm asking to be returned to the County Commissioner Board for 4 more years. Thank you.
Cody.
Good evening. I'm Doug Cody, Vice Chairman of the Jackson County Board of Commissioners. I would like to thank everyone in attendance for taking time out of their busy schedules to attend this event. Also, a big thank you goes out to the officials, faculty, staff, and students at SCC for making this event possible. I was born and raised in Jackson County, attended Jackson County Public Schools, and graduated from WCU with a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Technology. Job opportunity required me to live in Charlotte for several years, but I got back to these beautiful mountains as soon as possible. While in Charlotte, I met my wife, Doris. We have been blessed with 2 fantastic daughters, Julia, a production manager for NASCAR in Charlotte, and Airman First Class Caitlin, stationed at Moffett Air Force Base in Nebraska. I believe it is important that our citizens become aware of the issues that have been confronted over the past several years, the present issues and future issues that we may face as a county. It is also important to know how these issues have been resolved or being addressed and how the future issues will be handled. In the next 2.5 hours, each candidate will be able to present their proposals as well as their vision of the future for Jackson County. I dearly love Jackson County and our citizens. Our people deserve the best of anything we can afford. And over the past 4 years, the other commissioners and I have worked hard to achieve many things. Since we are a mixed board of 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and an independent chairman, we have had to work together to get these things done. This hard work by hundreds of highly professional and dedicated county employees, County Manager Chuck Wooten, and us has moved our county forward from the deepest economic recession since the 1930s. Our policies and hard work have helped Jackson County rapidly become established as the regional leader in medical care, education, and tourism. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Jack Desmond. I'm the chairman of the board of the Jackson County Commissioners. I would like to thank SCC, Dr. Bucky Dan, and the students in Dr. Dan's class of social problems for sponsoring this debate. I would also like to thank the over 1,100 voters in Jackson County that signed my petition that enabled me to be on this stage tonight. One would think coming up with an opening statement would be easy, but my wife, who was a former English teacher, has reminded me repeatedly that public speaking is not one of my finer talents. And being one of 7 kids, I was often told to shut up. At this time, most of the candidates are going to state where they're from, where they were raised, what they did, what their education is, and the awards that they have received. I only want to be judged in what I've done the last 4 years. That's all I've got to run on. As chairman, I'm the only unaffiliated chairman of the Board of Commissioners in the state of North Carolina. In the 2010 election, Jackson County moved to the forefront of the state of North Carolina, with being the only county with a split board. In 95% of the 586 votes we've taken by the end of June of this past year, I voted with the Democrats. I also voted with the Republicans because 95% of our votes were unanimous. That, in my opinion, is what helps us with Jackson County. I hope later in this debate that I can share with you how this split board has made things better in Jackson County.
Thank you. Mr. McMahon.
Good evening, folks. My name is Brian McMahon, and I'm the Democratic candidate for the chairman of the Jackson County Board of Commissioners. I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of my colleagues to thank Southwestern Community College for hosting this debate tonight. As well as I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate Southwestern Community College on 50 years of excellence in higher education and continuing ed training. Tonight's debate is important. It gives the voters of this county an opportunity to hear the differences between the candidates present here tonight and to fully recognize why we need a change in the leadership in this county. The new conservative commissioners took office 4 years ago with a lot of hope and full of promises, and even in a time of uncertain economic downturn, they were presented a budget that was very stable and sufficient and had great opportunities to meet the challenges of county government. But sadly, they fumbled the ball, not just once, but many times. And I've sat on the sidelines for the last 4 years, and quite frankly, I've been very disappointed in the leadership that has been demonstrated. I'm disappointed in the lack of planning. I'm disappointed in the attempt to silence both elected officials and citizens of this county. I'm disappointed in the failure to act on important issues. I'm here tonight to offer the citizens of Jackson County positive leadership, real solutions, and an opportunity to be heard and respected. And common sense approach to the challenges that are facing our county. As a former county commissioner with 8 years of service, I have the experience, the knowledge, and the positive style of leadership that this county needs.
Mr. Dees.
I'm Boyce Dees. I'd like to thank Southwestern Community College and all of our students who's been part of the forum. I appreciate the audience. This is what this is all about. It's what democracy is all about, is educating the people that are going to be voting for us. I was born in 1949 up on East Fork in the Hispanic community. We moved out to Silver family and I in 1954. And we moved there because it's close to work for my dad. He worked at the Dayton Rubber Company. And my mother, who was the second person they hired at Buster Brown textile plant on Skyland Drive. My mom started working 45 cents an hour. She made $18 a week. In some way, there's 5 of us kids, and we made it some way, milking cows and doing whatever we had to do to keep started. I attended Scotts Creek Elementary School and Southwestern High School and Western Carolina University as a graduate and undergraduate. I worked 4 years at the paper mill in Silver to put myself through school. Nobody helped me go to college but myself. I worked at it, put myself through school. Taught 31 years as a football coach, athletic director, and administrator. I feel my best attribute has been leadership. I chose as co-captain of the football team in 1966. We won the state championship that year. We had 2 All-Americans on that team. But for some reason, they chose me and Carl Davis to lead it. I've always enjoyed leading, and I think that's the attribute I have that serves me best. Jackson County gave me opportunities when I was a kid to be successful for my entire life because of the school system here and the university. I'd like to create a vision for our county. We do not need to be average. We don't need to be mediocre. We need to be excellent. I want to help develop this vision. We need to lead the parade and not follow. And we can be the light that shines for all the counties in western North Carolina to follow us.
Mr. Ward.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Southwestern and all the people who come out tonight, the students, especially the voters of Jackson County. I am a native of Jackson County, born down in the Wilmot community. I'm running against Mr. Elders in District 1. And I started out down there on a little old dairy farm, milking cows, packing silage. And some of you, I see some smiles on some faces, and some of you looking at me like, what the heck's he talking about? But I'm not afraid of work. I'm not afraid of hard work. I've made a living most of my life as a mechanic and welder. I left here, had to leave here or starve to death. That's talking about the time Meade was leaving out of this area like a lot of the others. Followed construction for a while, wound up with CSX Railroad. At the time, we were the second largest railroad in the United States. With a little hard work, a little bit of luck, I was promoted into supervision. There at supervision, I overlooked other men, safety, budgets, equipment. I mean, just anything to do with business, we were doing. We had $1 million budgets. So I'm used to figuring with the big figures. Now, being a farmer, I'm also told that you've got to have a plan. And if I'm elected, the first thing that I would like to enact or get on the agenda is for Jackson County to get a plan in place that we don't have right now. We have got to have a plan for growth for our county, know what we're doing and know where we're headed. I'd rather, without a plan, you're just headed for destruction. That's plain and simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we can have a first question. Kevin.
Okay, gentlemen. The first question of the day is, do you believe that cell phone towers and homes should be built on ridge tops? If so, in what way should they be regulated?
Mr. Ellis, begin with you.
I really don't like to see houses and cell towers if the cell towers are of much height on the ridge tops. But the houses, I do like to see off of the ridges, if not up on the top. But I'm not in favor of cell towers being on top of our mountains.
I'm not in favor of houses on ridge tops. I know cell phone towers, they're, according to the present ordinances, they are permitted on ridge tops, 120 feet high. Current ordinances state that houses must be below, 20 feet below the ridge tops, and I agree with that. But you get down into Silva area here, you see cell phone towers all over the place, and I mean, I think it's something that people expect to see now, since it's a necessity. People are mobile, and they need the cell phones for communication, information, and whatever. So I think the current ordinances are probably okay as far as the houses and the cell phone towers are concerned.
The question, I think, is, do we want cell towers on the ridges? You know, and I don't think any of us want that. I think that there are technologies. I was on the planning board about 12 years ago, and 10 or 12, and helped write the first cell tower ordinance. So I'm pretty familiar with all of that. As far as putting them on the ridge top, I think there may be some cases that they're necessary, but I think they could be disguised. I think you can use more than just a monopole. I think every ordinance we've got should be revisited at some point. And we are about halfway through revisiting those right now. If a cell tower has to be on the ridge, I would rather see it be disguised in some manner.
I don't agree with cell towers on ridge tops. We do have a cell tower ordinance in Jackson County that's been in place for quite some time. And it's probably one of the more stringent cell tower ordinances in western North Carolina. A very rigorous set of guidelines that have to be adhered to just to be able to place a cell tower in this county. Now, I'm in favor of revisiting that ordinance to make sure that it meets the current needs of the community. I know recently we've seen in the Whiteside Cove area the request, I think, for a cell tower because of the lack of cell coverage, and there's concerns on whether or not the ordinance was too restrictive, that it did not allow for the cell tower to be constructed there. So I think it's worth looking at the ordinance to make sure that it's up to date as far as modern technological standards. We've come a long way with cell phone coverage. In the days of people carrying bag phones in their cars and the type of antennas that was used, to the more modern type of coverage and the way that the signal is broadcast. So being able to co-locate like our current ordinance requires, as far as being able to build certain types of towers that blend into the environment. I remember one of the towers that was built up in the Balsam community, they had to do a red balloon flag as part of a red balloon trial test run. That's part of the ordinance, and I can remember going up on the Blue Ridge Parkway while I was serving the county commissioner just to help see if that was negatively impact the view shed. So I think it's in place, it's good, it might need to be tweaked a little, but I do not want to see cell towers on ridge tops. And I absolutely do not want to see houses constructed on ridge tops. I think we need to preserve our ridge tops so that the integrity of these mountains is protected.
Well, it seems like we're in agreement on all this. I really didn't know we were all in agreement with it, but I'm glad we are, so that's a good thing we can all applaud, that we agree on one thing right off the bat. I do not at all agree with building on these ridge tops. I want these mountains to look like when my grandkids, Valerie, gets older and can appreciate the mountains. I want them to appreciate them as well as we appreciate them. I want them to look at these same ridge lines that our forefathers saw when they rode in here on horses at one time. I think that's very important. These mountains and our culture here is important. Now, it's a shame that we can't get cell coverage in every little spot. I hate the dead place, don't you? We don't want the dead place. But I think we have to be very cautious about that. You go up to Highlands, and you look on the side of the ridge up there, and they've got a cell tower there. And the first time I looked at it, I thought it was a dead white pine up there. It looked funny. That's the type of thing we need in Western North Carolina, to disguise these towers and make them as pleasing as they can. But I'm completely against that, but we're all seem to be in agreement with that, and we used to spend a lot of time spending our wheel.
After 2.5 terms on the planning board, I can talk to you a little bit about houses on ridge tops. Number one, we need to define what is a ridge top. Now, I think that everybody will agree that what we're thinking about is a peak like this. But this came up in several of the meetings concerning ridge tops. And that needs to be defined as to what is a ridge top, how sharp it is. Now, the cell phone towers, with the proper technology and the design that they've got now for cell phone towers, you can put one in your backyard and think it's flagpole. So we have that out there. I'm not in favor of anything on a ridge top, period. And I know what I just got done saying about defining what a ridge top is, but you go down to the courthouse and ask some questions about building right now. And there is questions on what is the ridge top. So that's what I'm going to with that. I'm not alluding to we need to go up there and start building on it. But that is a question that the planning board and the permitting board and stuff around town needs to know and understand what the ridge top is. Thank you.
Does anybody want to respond to what's been said or to clarify anything they've said before we move on? Okay. Go to our next question.
Hello, I'm Laurie Lambert, and I would like to ask, should Jackson County pass a resolution opposing fracking?
Mr. Cody, go first.
Well, I know that's a hot topic of debate right now, but in reality, the current industrial development ordinance, which has been in place since May 16, 2002, addresses this as well as other similar operations under Article 2, Section 201, number 17, labeled mining industry. It says the mining sector comprises establishments that extract naturally occurring mineral solids such as coal and ores, liquid minerals such as crude petroleum, and gases such as natural gas. And according to this ordinance, it doesn't specifically prohibit any of this from occurring, but it makes it nearly impossible for it to occur. The location, for instance, the location of the closest point of property line of the lot on which a mine, oil, gas well, or quarry is located shall not be less than 1,320 linear feet, that's a quarter mile, from the closest point of a property line of a lot on which a commercial use, school, child care home, child care institution, daycare center, church, hospital, nursing care home, or nursing care institution is located. Any property line of a publicly owned property such as a park, any county-owned property, excluding rights-of-way, or from the closest exterior wall of any residential structure. So that just about prohibits. I don't think you can hardly go a quarter of a mile in Jackson County without running into one of these conditions. I think we ought to pass a resolution that protects all of our natural resources, not just the issue associated with fracking.
Well, I'm like Mr. Cody, we do have an ordinance. Everybody has always talked about the Ashe County ordinance and how good it was and the test that it's withstood. And the ordinance that we adopted in May the 16th, 2002 is more stringent than the Ashe County ordinance that everyone keeps commenting on. My thoughts are that this ordinance was adopted to stop an asphalt plant and a rock quarry. I think some of you will remember that in 2002. My opponent took office in 2002 when that was a real hot topic. And again, now this is a hot topic, and he was on the board in 2009 when these ordinances were codified. And I find it odd that he may have forgotten that we even had this ordinance and has not addressed the people in his party to explain to them that we are a lot better shape than most other counties in western North Carolina. We're in a lot better shape than the rest of the state. I think we do need to adopt a resolution to enforce this ordinance and to protect all of our natural resources, but I don't believe we need to adopt one just to address fracking.
Mr. Matt?
Yes, I am well aware of the industrial development ordinance that was adopted in 2002 by a previous board. And I even used that ordinance and went and spoke at a public hearing when the asphalt plant and the mine were proposed and read provisions from that ordinance to the folks that were trying to locate those organizations, those industries in Jackson County next to a bunch of homes that it was prohibited. So I was very, very much aware of it. The problem is, though, that under the legislation that has been passed by our state legislature, is that it preempts and it nullifies any existing ordinances on the books that counties have, or any ordinance on the books that county may try to adopt in order to try to regulate zoning. So effectively, local leaders and local jurisdictions have been rendered almost with their hands tied and have no control over their local future. So yes, we may have an ordinance on the books and it works well for the things that it was intended for at the time, but when we have an out-of-control legislature that tries to tie the hands of county government, it's a problem. And so that's why, if elected, one of the first items on the agenda will be a resolution to oppose fracking in Jackson County, and I will push for its adoption. Now, I think it's safe to say there's been a lot said about the recent pulling back of the monies because of some kind of budget concern, or it's where rocks will be tested or not tested in western North Carolina. That does not eliminate the threat of fracking. Fracking is still a real consequence, and common sense tells you when you pump chemicals into the ground and you contaminate well water, that is not good for Jackson County.
Mr. Heath?
Start with these three fellows sitting over here, and they didn't have anything to do with all this fracking thing that come up. They didn't. But now we've got a state legislator, Jim Davis, who introduced a bill about fracking. And then after he introduced that bill, he kind of started backtracking on it, and he said this was really for the rest of the state, not for us. And it was so good that he was able to go down there and pass some legislation to help the rest of the state. We need him to help this part of the state, not that part of the state. Now this fracking, I'm completely against this whatsoever. If I'm not elected, and that causes me not to be elected, well, fine. I'm against this. Our water is the most precious thing we have. And we've got to have air, and we've got to have water, and we've got to have food, and we've got to have shelter. And we were taught in the health class way back when we were kids that you could live and sustain yourself with others. And water is so important. And water is the thing people come here to enjoy. If to do anything that would jeopardize that, I hate to use the word stupid, but it's kind of stupid. And I feel strong about that. These fellows can pass a resolution, and one way you can look at it and say, I don't mean the hill of beans. But it does mean something. It does mean that we stand up for what's right, and for our people, and what's good for the mountains that we live in. So that's why we need to do that. And if enough people in this state does that, well then they'll start listening. And if they don't listen, we've still made a statement ourselves. And sometimes you just have to do what's right. And let it
Mr. Ward?
Ms. Green, I'm glad to see that they're finally going to put your idea on the agenda. To support fracking. Now, that being said, Laurie, to answer your question, yes, ma'am, I will support it. If I'm elected, it will be maybe not the top priority, but it will be up on the high list of priorities to be taken care of. Thank you.
Mr. Elder?
First thing I want to say is I am opposed to fracking here in western North Carolina. However, I do want us to support the ordinance that we have, and if we need to pass a resolution, that'd be great. We can do that. But one thing we have been assured now by Jim Davis that there would be no fracking in western North Carolina. And it's my understanding that...
Excuse me, Mr. Elder, please refrain from expressing approval or disapproval. Just let them talk, please. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Elder.
Gases are formed in shale rock, and there's no shale rock in western North Carolina. And one other thing we need to keep in mind, I've got a great-granddaughter, a little older maybe than some, but we've got to keep thinking about their future. Some of our resources are going to run out, and we've got to think daily and make plans. We may be talking 25, 30, 50 years from now, but let's don't forget those children today when we make these plans. We must study about that as we go through this deal too. And personally, I don't think there'll be any fracking in western North Carolina, and I don't want it.
If anybody wish to offer any rebuttal, sir? Yes.
I did. I'm reading from the Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League, a letter they put out. And it says the local zoning or land use ordinance is permitted to be valid and enforceable to the extent that the zoning or land use ordinance imposes requirements, restrictions, or conditions that are generally applicable to the development, including to, but not limited to, setbacks, buffer, stormwater requirements. Any objection to a local ordinance must be presented by written petition to the NC Mining and Energy Commission, which must then hold a public hearing, and a reversal must be met specific conditions spelled out in the new law. Commission may preempt the local ordinance only if it makes all four of the following findings. The ordinance would prohibit oil and gas production, but for the ordinance, all state and federal permits have been issued, that the public has had an opportunity to participate in the permitting process, and that oil and gas activities will not pose an unreasonable health or environmental risk to the surrounding community.
Yes. Mr. Cody, you have a minute.
Okay. I believe that what Chairman Edmund said there, that our ordinance, which has been in place for 12 years, carries much more weight than a simple resolution that comes up here in the last 6 months would carry on this issue. And from what he's said there, in fact, it does. And if we come up with a resolution, that would be kind of counteracting our ordinance that's already in place there. So I think we're on strong ground here with our existing ordinance. And like I said before, I think we ought to protect all our natural resources. And I breathe air and drink water and everything, and my family does just like everyone else. I don't want it destroyed.
Anyone else? Mr. McGann,
I will say that I agree with what you're saying. The ordinance that's in place may work and it may not. That's the problem. We don't know. There has not been any challenges thus far because, fortunately, we've not had fracking take place yet. Fracking cannot take place until the start of next year because the Mining and Energy Commission is working on developing the rules. The other thing that bothers me is the resolution doesn't say that it preempts or has any impact on the local ordinance. The resolution is just simply a statement of how you feel. And if the commissioners are against fracking, then take a stand on it. I know the 2 Democratic commissioners on the board have asked repeatedly for fracking to be placed on the agenda, and it has not. We've had citizens ask, and it has not. The chairman has removed it from the agenda. He admitted that himself at the last work session. So why not take a stand on it? Why not put it on the ballot or put it on the agenda?
anyone else wish to rebut?
Yes, sir.
Mr. McGee?
Well, I think the chairman, in his explanation, which I didn't understand all of it, but I mean, it's me, it's not him, but I think that's whistles and bells. If what he's saying is in fact the way he feels, and that's the truth, and he feels like that would stop any of this from happening, as quick as this fracking thing come out, we should have heard that. I mean, well, we should have been jumping up and down saying, we've got something to take care of this right now. You don't have to worry about that. And I didn't hear that. And
Anyone else wish to talk?
Could I speak?
Well, we're just allowing one rebuttal, sir, because we have to keep moving. Okay, well, we'll move on to our next question.
I'm Kiana, and my question for you is, do you believe Jackson County should offer incentives for businesses to locate here or stay here in the form of cash payments, prepared building sites, or tax breaks?
Mr. Evans, you go first.
I do think Jackson County ought offer some incentives. I've been here 26 years. In the 26 years I've been here, we have lost businesses just about every year. It has been just a steady stream. As I mentioned, Daco's gone, Mead's gone, all of those are gone. They're not coming back. The time of manufacturing, as we used to know it, is gone. What we need to offer incentives to is high-tech industry. We need to utilize Southwestern Community College. We need to utilize Western Carolina University. We need to utilize our schools and work toward medical and high-tech and do something to recruit those. We have hired an economic development director that is working hard and has we've already got back the packaging company down at Bryson City that started in Jackson County is back renting space from us in the facility. We had over $1 million in bad loans that we marked off the books when we first took office. And at this time, we have made 3 loans that are all collateralized and they're all paying. So whatever we can do to offer incentives, I feel we should.
Yes, I think trying to stimulate our economy to create an environment, economic environment that is business friendly. A lot of times we talk about trying to recruit jobs and to bring jobs into the community, but there should be a lot more emphasis placed on trying to keep people that have jobs here to stay here. One of the things that I think is interesting, if you look at the history of the workforce in this state and the economy of this state, 4 years ago, for the first time in our state's history, in fact in the nation's history, we saw more service jobs than we did manufacturing jobs. And that is a significant trend that has changed, and the tide has turned, and there are no more sewing plants coming. There are no more textile factories coming to Western North Carolina, and we have to be prepared for the new economy and to be able to embrace the kind of jobs that are coming. A large part of our jobs here in this county are tourism related, and we need to do what we can to help. Now, I know a couple of things I've thought about, and one of the things is I don't think our county has done enough to try to promote business within Jackson County, to try to do local business. If you buy and sell in Jackson County and you trade locally, then your dollar goes much, much further because the return on that investment helps to keep jobs local. You know, one of the things that we did, the Green Energy Park, which is a huge tourism attraction. It could be. Funding has been cut. It's been almost decimated. So that's something that we need. Those are the examples of things that we need to promote and try to encourage people to come here. I am all for trying to work with business leaders, but when it comes to offering out tax incentives, it has to be done in a way that meets the guidelines and then done in an appropriate way where the tax money of the citizens is not wasted.
Mr. Dick?
Sir. I don't know the number of counties out in this country, or every county in this country is trying to do the same thing to create jobs. And it's tough. You're competing against all of them. You've got to have something to draw people. The one thing we have to draw people is the county itself, and where we're at, and the mountains here, and the water, the resources, and the people. Being out the last few weeks, I mean, it's beautiful on the mountains, but we got a lot of beautiful people here. It's great people. The best we ever did in this county, I would say, and maybe I'm wrong, was when we were really hurt when NACO closed down, when Uniaugusta closed down, when Champion cut back from 17 paper machines to what they have today. We're in a situation now where we need to be working with these other counties also. You know, if a job comes into Swain County, a really good factory, and we're not here to help Swain County, although I did for 20 years. But it's bigger than just this county anymore. We spent $15,000, I think, when Brian was there, maybe not, but we put $15,000 in a stockyard over Canton, in a livestock yard. Why did we take $15,000 and put in a livestock yard? Because we were wanting meat producers in Jackson County to have a place to take their cattle and sell it. And I was talking to a fellow in Little Canada just the other day, in Little Canada just the other day, and he got his check from the stockyard, and he made a copy of it, and he framed it, put it on the wall. He said, I've never got that much for any cattle in my whole life. I don't want to ever forget it. And so there's things that we can do to help our economy that sometimes is out of the box that we never think about.
Ward?
Well, the stockyard in Canton has helped me. That's one incentive from Jackson County. Now, instead of taking my cattle all the way to Georgia, I run them right over here in Canton and sell them. So that is one thing. Somebody between the house and there, maybe even here in Jackson County, I won't mention names, but they probably get a tank of gas out of me, usually every Monday when I'm going over there. If we hadn't been lax and got a Tractor Supply in here, I usually stop at Tractor Supply on the way back and pick up something other else. But anyway, yes, young lady, to answer your question, we do need to offer incentives and we need to get out and beat the bushes. We can't just sit here and say, okay, where's the businesses? Oh, no, there goes one. We can't do that. We've got to get out and we've got to recruit these businesses. We've got to send out letters. We've got to make phone calls. The gentleman down there in the Economic Development Office, I believe that will be good for this job, will be good for our county. But we need to help him and we need to tell him what we're looking for. Jackson County people, we need to let the rest of the world know that Jackson County is open for business. Not only tourists, which is one of our big incomes, but everything else. Not only the high-tech industry, but what about a fishing reel place, a fishing rod place? Somebody want to come in here and build canoes, take people up down the river trout fishing. Hey, if we've got a guide that comes in here and wants to go take somebody trout fishing, and he hires 4 or 5 people, that's 4 or 5 more people on the tax roll. They'll get the money from their sales tax and stuff.
The answer is yes. I think we do need to come up with incentives for it. But another thing we need to be, I know we've all got our minds on something big. It always tickled me to death, and everybody in this room, if we could get the news tonight, a big textile plant or some manufacturing company was going to, Ford Motor Company, Chrysler or something, going to locate here in Jackson County. But I don't foresee that right off. We need to concentrate some on the smaller businesses. Maybe some good chain restaurants. We could reduce the impact fees, and there are a lot of things we could do, maybe a free taxi year or whatever. But we do need to work along that line to try to recruit businesses, small or large, to come into our county.
Well, I agree that we need to have incentives for business, and we've done that very thing. I mean, we've given loans to Jackson Paper to help them do some work down there, and on their factory that retained about 60 jobs. We've given Mr. Burnett back there money to start up the radio station that was closed down, and had been closed for a good period of time. And we've given other incentives too. And the only difference between us and what Mr. McMahon was saying there is that we have collateral on our loans, and the people are paying their loans. You know, we had to write off $1 million of bad debt that had no collateral, when we went in office. And as a matter of fact, the Drexel plant, the old Drexel plant, Clearwood, Commissioner Elders and I, when we first got elected, we went down there and the people were cannibalizing that plant. It had been going on for months. They were in there stealing copper, anything that they could carry out. Well, where were these guys? You know, where was Mr. McMahon's commissioners to oversee this stuff? And you know, I mean, $1 million could go a long way to get incentives for local business, which I agree with 100%, and we've been doing that. There's programs in place to give local businesses incentives, and we're doing it. And so words are cheap, but actions take some effort.
Anyone wish to offer a rebuttal? Yeah.
I understand, and I'm well aware that there were some loans that were not repaid. And in fact, those loans were on the book when I took office. So they sort of I inherited them, I passed them on to y'all. So the thing that is important to remember is, even though in some of those instances, there were people working at those locations. And we sat down, the board that I served on, we took a hard look at, you go in there because somebody's not making a loan payment, you go in there when they got 30 people at sewing machines working, And that's how they're putting food on the table. Do you go in there and say, we're going to close the doors and evict you because you've not made your loan payment? Or are you going to let those 30 people work? Now, I was more in favor of letting the 30 people work than I was trying to send them out on the street with nothing else. The other thing is, if you look at the county economic development loans that have been issued, that program started in 1982 with community development block grant funds that came as federal funds. After when these folks gave the loans out the other day, the first of their term, we had enough money in the account, $125,000 more than we started with. We've not lost any money.
Okay. Anyone else need to respond? Yes, Mr. Holt.
Just one comment, since we're on this subject, that we're proud of on this board of commissioners that I serve with now. We have reinstated the EDC board. We have a director, and he's on top of this and working every day on what we're discussing here tonight.
And I'd like to remark to Mr. McMahon's comment about he passed those loans along to me. He inherited those loans 8 years before he passed them on to me, and neglected to do anything about those loans. And when we came in, it was time to do some house cleaning, and I didn't think we could wait 8 more years.
I'd like to say that also that one of those loans, the largest loan that the money was lost on, close to $500,000, that loan was renegotiated under Chairman McMahon's watch, and they actually loaned this person additional money and removed the collateral from the loan. I mean, it was the collateral was in place, and the guy went there and he was going belly up. Well, they removed the collateral and loaned him more money. You know, I mean, to me, that's not a wise business decision.
Mr. Gates, Mr. Ward, want to respond?
Well, maybe I didn't answer the question as well as I should have. I do think for any incentives we do bring in jobs, we need to do that. When I was working for Congressman Heath Shooter, when I was working for Congressman Heath Shooter, we went over when they opened up, what is it, Sierra Nevada beer plant for no better term, over in Asheville. You know the reason they came over there? The reason they came is because they came here to visit. The family did on vacation. And they just fell in love with the place. There's places from hike, there's places from canoe, they did all these things. And because of what the place was, they decided we're going to expand to the east. This is where we come. So I think some of the things that we have ourselves as far as things we can offer, we need to make sure that we make this, everything we have as good as it can possibly be, and we need to be first class as we can be, and I think stuff like that will help bring some of these people in house.
Well, we all have things that we're not proud of that we've done. Hindsight is 20/20. Yesterday's gone, not a whole lot we can do about it. Tomorrow hasn't got here yet. Now, what are we going to do about Jackson County and moving it forward?
Okay, need to answer the question. And this will be start with Mr. McMahon.
According to a report from the Anna Food Bank, 1 in 4 children in Western North Carolina lack reliable access to sufficient food each day. Do you think the country should increase its financial support for nonprofit groups to deal with hunger issues among Jackson County residents?
Before I answer, I want to go back and just make a closing comment on the issue of the development loans. As I indicated, the money started in 1982 with federal funds. That is money that did not come out of the taxpayers of Jackson County pockets. It is set up in a program for high-risk loans to businesses that can't receive loans from traditional bank institutions to spur economic growth, to help create jobs, and to be something in the community as almost an economic stimulus. Of those loans, 3 were paid in full, 2 were current when I left office, and 3 were not current. Like I said, we did renegotiate the one loan with the gentleman. His house had been used as collateral that he and his wife lived in. That was done before I took office. And so we did remove that because we were not going to take an elderly man and woman's house from them as collateral. Now, to the question for this about Amana Food Bank, it's unfortunate that we live in a time where so many people are hungry, and especially children, and we should never have children go hungry in this nation. We are a nation of plenty, and I don't see any reason why we can't feed our people. I will give kudos and tell the current board, I appreciate the fact that they have been working to secure some payments made to Amana Food Bank, the lines of credit, to be able to allow local nonprofits such as Community Table, such as Neighbors in Need, United Christian Ministries, and so on, to be able to have access to food, to be able to help feed people. I was a strong supporter of the local soup kitchens, like here in Jackson County, and I will be a strong supporter of them in the future because we need to address food insecurity in this nation.
%20 of people in this county live in poverty. Big percentage of kids go to bed each night with money. That's a shame in Jackson County, it's a shame in America. It's all of our fault if that happens. We've got a lot of people that's doing things about that. You know, all of you, the United States, Congress, the farm bill that we finally got passed weeks back. You know, there's things in there that has always helped people involved in, got the school lunch program and things like that. My wife Sandra, she's back there. We were talking to one of our classmates was at Scotts Creek Elementary School when we were kids. And she come by our house the other night and she got to tell us about when she went to school. And she said, we took a biscuit. There's 14 of us. And a biscuit's what we took to eat. And you know, I didn't know, we probably didn't have a lunch program back then. And we, probably Sandra and I didn't know she didn't have nothing but a biscuit. And said sometimes we put something in that biscuit. Now we've got people to take, that's about all they got today. Patsy Dowling, and I can't remember to save my life, her organization over there. Mountain Project. Patsy Dowling, they feed those kids, they have kids come in our Head Start type kids and they feed them breakfast. She said some of the meal they get is right there every day. Some of them, they get breakfast, they get lunch. And then on the weekend, they pack them a bag of lunch, bag to take home so they'll have something to eat over the weekend. Anything we can do. It's not a Democrat-Republican thing. This is not it has nothing to do with politics at all. We all, if we're Christians, if we feel like that at all, you don't have to be Christians, you have to love it. We've got to make sure that we do anything we can to take that. We've all got that advice, we all feel that way.
Mr. Ward.
Yes, I highly support the Atlanta Food Bank, and a lot of these other charity organizations, and there should be a way that we can figure out to put in the budget things to support these charities, especially to do and deal with children. And, you know, maybe there's a few other things we can do with that to support items like this. Now, Atlanta Food Bank, and I have stepped back from it, talking about the old Drexel plant. We've been involved with trying to do something other down there for about, I don't know, 2 years maybe. I'm not real sure about the time, it's been a while. And I was on the original board to try to get something started down there. We started out with a bunch of the local folks down there, and then we went on through to the county, and the county allowed us to get a new work, to got a little grant, got some grant money. But I was initially started that out, just a bunch of us redneck country boys down there. We really wanted somewhere to have a rodeo or a tractor pull or something other like that. Well, after this thing's got started, and we were talking about the Manna Food Bank, and this gives me an opportunity to say that. Manna has done come to this group, and if we can get it off and get it going, they would like to have some coolers down there so that they can bring this produce and everything else from Asheville to Whittier to store it, and then take it from there on to the far western part of the state, because as it is right now, they have to leave Asheville with a truckload and figure out some way to distribute a whole truckload. This way, they can leave out maybe with a pickup load or something and do a better job of serving western North Carolina. So I'm proud that I was instrumental in getting that started, and we have been helping with the commissioners.
I think everybody here is in agreement. We do need to help the poor and especially the hungry. And I'd like to comment on what Coach Dietz has said about mountain projects. I'm proud to hear that because I'm on their board of directors, and those stories he shared, I've heard those in meetings also. And we have directed our Gerald Green, our planning director, he's doing a comprehensive study right now on the old Drexel plant. And of course it is in a floodplain zone there, but we are working fiercely on that and hoping to have that going up in the near future.
As far as hunger is concerned, yes, it is a bad situation, but we've not been sitting around idly and not been addressing that situation. We appropriate over $700,000 a year to nonprofits. That includes Community Table and Neighbors in Need, all these charitable groups. And as a matter of fact, we got our guy that's in charge of the Department of Aging. There was an issue of not having enough money, or we appropriated enough money to feed every elderly person that was signed up for Meals on Wheels. And there was some lag time in initiating that program, and we got that started quickly once we found out that there was a waiting list. We've gone above and beyond any other group of commissioners as far as addressing the situation of hunger and getting meals to the people that need it. And I don't think anyone can complain. I mean, there may be some more need out there, but if people need more help, I think we're more than willing to do it. But we've addressed every situation that we're aware of, and $700,000 going to nonprofits, I don't think that's an insignificant amount of money to give to these programs.
It's like Mr. Elder said, he serves on the board of Mountain Projects. I serve on that board with Mr. Ward on the project down at Whittier. And we are making great strides, but we're not catching up to the poor people in Jackson County. Our poverty level is 19%, as Mr. Dietz said. A lot of that is people that want to work and can't, that were working, that were carpenters, and a lot of that is people that aren't counted in unemployment numbers. And we don't know how to count those numbers because they didn't draw a paycheck. We don't know exactly everybody that's out there, but I do know that we, as Mr. Cody said, we are donating $700,000 a year in the county budget to help support people in need. And I know that Bob Cochran at Social Services, they do a great job.
Any rebuttals or responses? Okay.
That sounds very good. Thank y'all for that. Anything y'all do to help people like that, great. If we're in there, I hope we can do it as much or more. But the one thing we don't want to forget, you know, the government's not always the answer now. You know, it's what we do individually as families. In our, on the creek where we live, the church that you go to, you know, all those things is where we help these folks do. It's not all about what we can get someone down to justice system to take care of.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Cook.
I agree with everything that's been said. The secret, I guess if you want to call it a secret, or the solution to the problem is getting people back to work. And we've done a lot on that end. I mean, we have worked with Big Power to get access ways up to the river out here. Our tourism has increased dramatically in the last 2 years. Our unemployment rate is 6%, which is not low enough, but it's dropped off by 4 or 5% since we've been in office. Our retail sales, which translates into jobs for people, are at all-time highs. Our retail sales so far this year are $19 million more than they were last year. That means jobs, folks. And when we spend money in Jackson County, we help ourselves.
Go ahead.
I would just make the comment, and I think the chairman alluded to the fact, and did so in a very good way, that if you look at unemployment numbers in this state, it does not accurately represent the true picture of unemployment. People who are local contractors who don't qualify for unemployment benefits, they're not counted in that. People who have exceeded the qualification period are not counted in that. People who are underemployed are not counted in that. And the real travesty is that this state, in 2013, the legislature passed the Unemployment Reform Act, and it was signed by Governor McCrory, which radically reduced the number of weeks that people could draw unemployment to 20, and the number of dollars that they could draw per check to $350. Now, you folks know, anybody's ever gone to the grocery shop and knows about what you can buy in a month's time with $350 plus trying to pay bills, and it's just almost impossible. So a lot more needs to be done, and that number is not an accurate depiction of how Jackson County unemployment is.
Okay, we'll move to our next question. We'll start with Mr. Dietz.
Jackson County has the highest sales assessment ratio on property in the state. What do you think should be done about the property reevaluation scheduled to be conducted in 2016?
I taught school 31 years, and I never have had a student give me a test. It's always the other way around. I appreciate you giving me a tough square. I don't know how I've done so far, but if I miss this, I'm still make that. We don't be happy. If we go into office, the first thing we're going to do is tackle this situation about reevaluation. This is something we can't wait a year and a half, 2 years, and all at once get up one morning and say, "Oh, we got to do something about this." This is going to be the toughest problem that we have to deal with. It would have been best that none of the three of us run just let the good these people left over. But we didn't. This is a tough problem. We're going to have to tackle it. And hopefully maybe it won't be as bad as we seem to think it's going to be. We know we can tighten our belts, all of us, and save some money everywhere. And I think we're going to have to try to do that. We're going to have to look at every place we can save $1 million. Everybody thinks what they do is more important than other fellow. We need to tighten our belt, but don't tighten my belt. But I think it's going to be important we find out where we need to go through that budget, item by item. But we need to have a plan right off the bat. We need to educate the people of this county on what's about to happen to us. They need to know about this. We don't need to surprise them. This is going to be a tough thing. It's not going to be easy. But if it was easy, all of y'all y'all be running too. I always tell my football players that, you know, it's easy, everybody be out here playing instead of being in the stands on Friday night and cheering. But it's tough and it's hard work and it's a job, and we are willing to tackle it. Thank you.
Mr. Ward?
Yeah, boys, it's gonna be a rough road to hoe. But somebody's gotta do it. I feel like we're up to the task. Now, young lady, in answer to your question, if my figures are correct, I believe that our property values, I've been told, are about 36% overvalued in Jackson County. I may be off a percent or two, Larry, but I'm sure somebody will correct me here in a minute. Now, what we've got to do is figure out not how to raise taxes to provide you with the same level of service that you have right now. Nobody wants to do with less service. Like Boy said, we all know we got to tighten our belt, but I don't want to tighten mine. I'm used to a 44, I want to stay there. But we have got to tackle this, and we have got to get our people educated on why we're doing it and what we're doing. Now, I've heard estimates that we're going to have, it's going to be an increase in taxes, regardless of whether these folks go back in or whether we go in. I believe if we go in, it'll be a less increase. But nevertheless, from the figures I'm seeing right now, I just don't hardly see us having that great of an increase from what I've been told. Now, whether I'm being told right, I'm getting the right figures or not, I don't know. But if you elect us, I guarantee you day 2, we're going to start on it. And day 3, we're going to have a plan on this, on what we're going to do. May not be the right plan, the plan may get changed. But that's what we've got to do, that's what we're running on, is change in common sense.
That's why you've got a good county manager, you've got good departments heads, and we have this being worked on right now as we speak. And if you look, we've already trimmed this county quite a bit. I think our debt's almost been reduced by $10 million. Our debt service about $1 million. And with good planning, as people retire and different programs come on, with the good management we have, I believe by the time this revow takes place, we'll be in good shape.
Well, I'd just like to say it's not something we've just been sitting around for the last 4 years not taking care of. We were dealing with unusual circumstances when we got in office, and we dealt with a challenge. I mean, when you do a revaluation, you've got to have comparable sales. And at the time we took office, there were no comparable sales, or not enough comparable sales in a large portion of the county to do a revaluation. So our tax assessor, on his advice, we postponed this revaluation to give time, to get the comparable sales and to turn the economy around. The economy has turned around. I mean, we have increased our sales tax revenue by $1.8 million. We've refinanced loans that have saved the county over $2 million. We have worked as efficiently as possible, and we have actually added $3 million to the fund balance since we've been in there. The audit will show that in October that we've added at least $3 million to the fund balance that was left to us when we took office. I mean, we've done everything as efficiently as possible. These guys talk about cutting and cutting. Let them tell us where they want to cut. You know, do they want to cut social service? Do they want to cut recreation? Do they want to cut, what do they want to cut? Let's hear it, you know? And, anyway, we've worked efficiently, and we've run an efficient, tight ship.
Yeah.
Well, the reevaluation is another thing Mr. McMahon had to pass on to me, I'm sure. We looked at it when we took office, and we were on a 4-year cycle. If we had done the reevaluation when we were supposed to, 85% of the taxpayers in Jackson County would have seen a tax increase at the end of that first 4-year cycle due to market, due to comparable sales, due to what had happened to the economy in Jackson County. So yeah, we pushed it down the road. We pushed it down 1 year and then came down and pushed it down again. We pushed it for 3 more years, trying to get a handle on what's happening with the economy in Jackson County, trying to increase our tax base, and trying not to let it be a shock to everyone. It's not as bad as it was going to be, but it's still going to be a shock. And anybody that thinks that it isn't, or even thinks, I've been in the real estate industry for 26 years. That business is off 80%. It was off for 5 years. And that is a big part of Jackson County's economy. That's a lot of the people that work. We got a 6-month jump start on the rest of the nation in the recession. We got a gift of a moratorium for 6 months. It took a lot of things off the table. I think we've done well. I am satisfied with the job we've done. And on the budget, we're headed in the right direction on that, and I believe we can get through this reevaluation in good stand.
Amen.
And I agree with everything the chairman has just said. He's very accurate about his assessment of the reevaluation process. It would have been the same position that I would have took and the other commissioners if we had remained in office. Because he's very accurate. 85% of the people would have seen a tax increase. And at that time, to cut services at the level we would have had to cut, it was not prudent for county government. I think the real issue is, under state law, you have to have reevaluation every 2 years. And so we can't kick the can any further down the road. I mean, it's going to happen this time. So we've just got to deal with what comparisons that are available and what data has been made available. But just like it's been already alluded to, the thing that we can do different is to look at our budget and try to tighten the belt as much as we can in the areas that we can while yet providing the service that's needed. It would be nice if our state legislature wouldn't pass on unfunded mandates that we have no control over. And if that would quit happening, then that would help change the game a little bit. But it's awful hard when you pass a budget, and I think these guys will agree, and then all of a sudden the legislature comes out and decides they're going to change how they're going to fund teacher salaries or so on, and then you've got to remodify your budget. And just to answer the question, I know, and kudos, they did pay off $10 million in debt, but that was a scheduled debt payment. Just like buying a car, you buy it for a term, and after a certain amount of payments, it pays off. Well, that was money that had been set aside, a loan had been secured for Scotts Creek Elementary School and for the water and sewer infrastructure for Scotts Creek Elementary School, and it would have made no difference who was in office, that debt would have paid off during those years. So no one can claim any more credit for the fact they just made the payments. If you look at the operating budget from the general fund, from 4 years ago, when I left office, it was at $50 million roughly. It is now at $55 million. So the operating budget has gone up $5 million.
I just want your statement.
Okay. Well, go ahead, you can make a rebuttal with that.
Okay. Now, we talked about we work efficiently as possible, that's absolutely as possible. If I ask every one of you here, if you could tighten your belt at home, then one thing save a little money, every one of you could. Every one of you may not, but every one of you could. I guarantee you, I mean, we're food receptive thing, that all these departments are as efficient as they are. If today, they're not. We can be more efficient. We're gonna have to work at that. We'll work at it, promise.
Anyone?
We,
Go ahead.
in the efficiency part, when we took office, there were over 400 employees for Jackson County. And we have, through attrition on them, not through laying anybody off, have reduced that down to about 385 or 6 right now. So we are tightening our belt, Mr. Ward. We have, we're trimming where we can.
Well, thank you for that, because I was going to ask a question, because I've got a figure here from the county office that says that we have 467 employees. Well, it's in the budget. If you get to put the budget on that, it's in there.
Okay.
On page 12.
One more rebuttal, then we gotta move on.
Okay. The $2 million that we saved by refinancing the loans was real money. You know, that was real money. Yes, we did pay off the scheduled payments and everything, but $2 million is not chicken. And if we added the $1 million that they wrote off, that we had to write off because of bad debt and everything, and then the millions, about the $1 million they wasted on trying to develop a software program and fighting legal battles and all that, we would have had $4 million. But they generously wrote off, or caused to be written off, $2 million, either by bad loans or by lawsuits, frivolous lawsuits, or trying to develop a software program that we actually got done for $15,000.
We have to move on, I'm sorry, Ms. Elder. We're going to take one more question. We'll start with Mr. Ward, and we're not going to allow rebuttal to this. Just ask the question, then we'll move on to your closing statement.
The state legislature recently authorized counties to increase the sales tax with voter approval to provide increased funding for public schools and community colleges. Do you think it's a good idea?
I don't think it's a good idea to raise any kind of tax. After we get in there and find out what's going on, it may have to happen. I don't know. I do not have all the figures in front of me that I would like to have to answer your question intelligently. But personally, I'm not in favor of any kind of a tax increase whatsoever. I think I'm paying about all I can stand, and I know most of the rest of it is already too.
In answer to that, I too don't want to see any tax increases, but this was for a worthy cause, and we need to keep our educational system number one, and whatever it takes to keep our schools, let's do it.
Well, as far as funding the schools are concerned, we have fully funded or exceeded every budget request that the Jackson County School Board has brought before us. We actually gave them $240,000 more last year than they requested because we got extra sales tax dollars in. And we have increased Southwestern Community College's budget by $400,000 since we've been in there, and funded all their capital expansion programs. I mean, if people need more money, if the school boards need more money, and our Southwestern Community College needs more money, they need to request it. I mean, we'll take a look at it, but we have been very generous with the school boards and Southwestern Community College. And I believe if you will ask the members of the school board, they will say that we have been one of the best groups of county commissioners to work with as far as funding is concerned. And I'm very proud of that. We built a brand-new state-of-the-art gymnasium and performing arts center for Smoky Mountain High School. We built an addition for a dressing room and weight room at Blue Ridge School. We repaired $1 million roof at Colby Valley that had apparently been leaking for some period of time, and when the school board brought it to our attention, it was promptly repaired. So we can be proud, I think, of our accomplishments as far as working with the school board. I'm very proud of that. And we were one of the few counties that never had to lay off teacher assistants.
Well, I agree with Mr. Cody. He's much better on the facts and figures than any of the rest of us. But he's also didn't mention that we have improved our relationships with the Jackson County School Board. We've improved our relationships with the Southwestern Community College Board. We've improved our relationships with Western Carolina University. We have struggled to keep those relationships in a positive position. There have been some funding issues, but Dr. Murray told me the other day that they have never come to us and asked us for one thing that we didn't give them. We have given everything with Southwestern Community. We don't give them everything they ask for, but we are giving them $400,000 more per year right now than they ever received before. And that is turning out students, good students in our schools. And we need to stay focused on education. We need to stay focused for these young people. We need to stay focused for our future as far as education goes.
One of the things that I did when I first became chair of the County Board of Commissioners is that I instituted a policy that if we had budget negotiations for the school system, instead of it being the county manager and the superintendent, it would be the two boards. And so that's not something new. That's something that had been happening for quite a few years. I served on the community college's board of trustees, so I was very familiar with the workings of the community college and had a very good relationship with the community college. And we have worked well over the years to try to provide the capital needs and the operating expenses. I am very proud that when the economic downturn hit, that we were trying to backfill local school systems, we're trying to backfill budget losses with supplements, money coming from the state through the Recovery Act. So we were able to help supplement as well with local tax dollars to not lose any teaching positions in Jackson County. We have done a lot. If you look at where we come from and where we have got to today, it is a tremendous amount of capital improvements to the school systems in Jackson County. I couldn't even begin to sit here and name all the improvements that our board was responsible for. Smoky Mountain High School master plan, which was A building, B building, D building enhancements, a new science building, a new cafeteria, a new entrance, site prep, and the initial planning for the gymnasium that was built under this current administration. The Fairview Kindergarten building, the early college building here on Jackson County SCC campus that our high school students use. This borough building that we're in tonight, this wonderful facility, was built under my tenure on the board. So we supported the school systems wholeheartedly, and if elected, I will continue to do so.
Everything I have, I owe to education. The most important thing we can do for our children and our grandchildren is to see if they get the best education. But I want to raise taxes, do a sales tax if we needed that for education. I hope we wouldn't have to go that route. Now, our state put us in a kind of a bind. The state of North Carolina, through the Constitution, says that every student in this state should have a free and public education. And our legislators have decided, that we need to make decisions down here on the local level. And some of the decisions they're wanting us to make is, how are we gonna pay for this free education that they're supposed to be providing? And so it's getting more and more where they're putting it on the county commissioners. Where are you gonna come up with these funds? If I understand correctly, the last month of this coming school year, there's no funds for transportation. So we're gonna have to come up with those funds. So they're saying, well, don't raise taxes, but y'all take care of all this down at the county level. So we're shirking our responsibility. Some of these problems are really deeper than we realize. I went to Western Carolina University, and I thumbed the school the first year, and there was, thank God, there's people there that said, that was done fell there, maybe they go to school. And there's some of those doctors and professors up there kind of took me under the wing, and I was able to graduate. Education is the one key to all of this. It's the key to the job. It's the key to the hunger. It's the key to all of this. We can never make any apology about education. Never. There's not enough time to talk about it.
Okay, we'll close with each get 2 minutes to make closing remarks. We'll start with Mr. Ward, and then Mr. Deitch will be second. Mr. McMahon, you'll be third, and we'll just come down the line. So go ahead, Mr. Ward, you have 2 minutes.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight, SCC for putting this on, giving us all the opportunity for the folks in the county to understand where we all stand on different issues. And I don't think there's anybody on the stage got any more want to than I have about wanting to improve Jackson County and improve our lives here in Jackson County. Now, to do this, yes, we've got to have education. We've got to have jobs. We've got to get out and start recruiting some of these things. But people, just want to thank you all for being here tonight, and I hope that y'all see fit to let me come November the 4th.
Thank you. My wife's been discussing all day with me. I've been trying to come up with this nice statement. I just never could get it right and say, no, I'm tired of it right now. I'm speaking just from my heart. George Bernard Shaw said, and a lot of times we think this is Robert Kennedy, said some people see things as they are and say why. I'd read things that never were and say why not. My dad is dying in the hospital right now. My dad taught me one thing. There's a way to get everything done. I don't care what it is. And through my whole coaching career, I took teams, I took facilities. In some way, we found a way to make them better and make it the best it could be. And I always think that in this county and anywhere, there's a way to do all of these things that we need to do. Now, we may be too ignorant and dumb to figure it out, but there's a way. But usually, if you look at it and work at it long enough, you'll find a way to do these things. And I want to start listening instead of talking. I talk too much. What we need to do, what we're going to do for a team as commissioner, we're going to listen. And we're not going to listen, we're going to hear. Because there's a difference. And I was with a fellow the other day up in Little Canada, and he said, well, now, if I vote for you, I may just do that, but I'll never see you again, will I? Now, why did he say that? He said that because that's become the thing. I'll get you vote, but you won't see me again. They're going to see us again. They're going to see me. And I gave them 2 phone numbers, and I said, if I'm elected, call one of these numbers if you need me. If I'm not elected and I'm happy, call one of these numbers. The greatest thing that I've ever done was being able to help people. The job of the congressman, constituent services, especially helping the elderly people that was intimidated by the phone, was intimidated by computer. To be able to help them was just an awesome thing, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to do that, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to represent y'all and serve you. I'm not on no ego trip. My cup of ego ran over a long time ago.
I'd like to
thank Dr. Dan and the students tonight for moderating this debate and helping to educate and enlighten the voters of Jackson County. I also would like to thank you who came out tonight to listen to us, and those that are listening on WRGC at home or at work or in their car as they travel tonight. I also like to say that I appreciate the service of Chairman Devlin, Commissioner Cody, Commissioner Elders, and their willingness to serve. It takes a great lot of work, and I appreciate their service to this county. This election is not about who loves this county more. This election is about a vision for the future and where are we going to go, and who has that vision, the knowledge to move this county forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the crossroads in our history, and the economy in our state and in our nation and in our local county is improving. There are signs of growth. And now is the time for us to grab a hold of the reins and to be able to lay the foundation to have this growth and to move forward. Not just for us now, but for our generations that are coming in the future. We cannot afford to stumble like we have over the last 4 years. If you will support Joe Ward, Boyce Deeds, and myself, we have a plan on day one to move this county forward. We have a plan that we are ready to help embrace growth, but in a way that is done so that it helps guide growth in a positive way. We're ready to tackle the reevaluation issue on day one, and by tightening our budget and also by not placing undue tax burdens on our citizens. We're ready to work in a positive, constructive manner with all the groups in this county, whether it be local governments or institutions or business, commerce. I'm ready to work with Commissioner Mark Jones and Commissioner Vicki Green as we apply common sense approach to the problems that face this county. We are ready to listen to the people of this county and give them the respect that they deserve. On November the 4th, vote Brian McMahon, Boyce Deeds, Joe Ward, the Common Sense team.
Well, I'm nowhere near the speaker, Mr. McMahon is. But what I can tell you is what we have done since we've been elected. Mr. McMahon talked about handing the loans down to me that were in place already. Another thing he handed to me was $56,000 in past due taxes. At the first meeting in January of 2011, we had to mark off because they had gotten too old to be collected. Since we've been in there, we have collected $2.75 million in back taxes that were due Jackson County. I had borrowed money to pay my taxes. I don't know about everybody else. We've done that. We've upgraded and improved Mark Watson Park. We funded that. We had to fund the rest of this building that was passed down to us that wasn't budgeted to be funded. We had to fund the maintenance of the library that had been kicked down the road. There was nothing in the budget to address that. We struggled the first 2 years. I'm not going to tell you any lies about it. We struggled. It was hard. And it took me 2 years to finally get caught up to where we could start progressing. And I think we have progressed, and I think we're moving in the right direction. We're not that far apart in our thinking of what's good for Jackson County. I think we all want what's good for Jackson County, and I think it's time that we stayed the course for a change. I think we have done a good thing with a split board with 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and myself, and I would appreciate your vote again in November. Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you for everyone that's come out to hear us debate the issues tonight. I would like for you to be open-minded and take a copy of this list of achievements that we've made over the last 4 years. We've worked hard, we really have. And there was a lot of house cleaning to do when we took office. We mentioned some of those things tonight. And, you know, a lot of the things that these guys were talking about over here, we've already done these things. I don't know where they've been. I mean, we've hired an economic development director. We've worked with Duke Power to get all these access ways going into the river out there. We've did numerous things to stimulate our economy, and it's showing right now. Like I said earlier, our retail sales are at an all-time high. Back about 5 or 6 years ago, Macon County was beating us $100 million a year in retail sales. That's an embarrassment to people because they have 7,000 people less than we do. They were beating us $100 million a year in retail sales. That is down now to probably less than $10 million in retail sales. That tells me that we're doing something right. We're collecting money on taxes that need to be collected. We've stimulated the economy, and I'm proud of the things that we've done. And I think if you'll read this list of accomplishments, that it'll shed some definitely shed some light on how hard we've worked over the last 4 years. And I would appreciate if you would put your faith and confidence in us for 4 more years to continue the progress, not return to something, but continued progress.
Finally, Mr. Elder.
First, I'd like to just take a minute to thank each and every one of you, no matter what your part was. You swept the floor, you held the door open, you took part in this, and we're very grateful. I'm grateful to the opposition for serving on this panel with them tonight. It's been a pleasure serving with this mixed board for 4 years, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 1 independent. We have accomplished a lot, and I know the opposition, you won't want to pick up one of these, re-elect Cody, Dedmon, and Elders, your team for continued progress. And it's got a list of things we have done this past 4 years. And we close, let's continue to move Jackson County forward. That's our motto. And I would like for you, if you take a minute, read it, and if you want to set it on fire, whatever you want to do. If we're elected, we'll continue the progress that we have done. Some things are unfinished. We would like to finish them. But we're for you, Jackson County, everyone. And I would like for you to consider voting for us 3 to remain in office another 4 years. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the debate for tonight comes to a conclusion.
That concludes our debate. Thanks for coming out, and have a good evening.